Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jay, are we live or are you?
Yes.
Okay, the next item is, any petitions from the audience?
Not that I know.
Approval of the minutes from the May 13th, 24 meeting.
Move that we approve the minutes of the May 13th, 2024 meeting.
Second.
Jay, if you'll do the vote.
Berger,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Nolan,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Sordo.
Yes.
Okay, quick discussion of Freedom Fest. Zach jumped in and Scott jumped in, and then we both were there, and anybody else that was there jumped in, but we estimate there were 2 to 3 times the amount of people that were there last year. I know at about 7:30, 8 o'clock, we said, hey, cars aren't coming in very steady, let's hold off doing any additional cars, so we're parking. Left a few people down there to park, and they said about double what had already come in, came in the next hour.
Yeah.
So there were somewhere between 800 and 1,000 cars just in that lot. Most of the vendors, I emailed all of the vendors afterwards. Several of them have responded back and said they're already planning to come next year, that it was out of all of the 4th of July or summer events they've been to, ours was the best one for them. So that's pretty exciting. We are, Zach and I are already working on 2025s, getting the contract with the fireworks guy. We talked to him, Zach talked to him, said his dates are already filling up because it's
the 250th anniversary of the United States next year.
so he said his dates were already filling up, so we will probably be signing that contract or working on that contract pretty quick. The sponsors covered all of the costs. We had one that came in at the end and said, hey, they do the face painting, but we have to bill them and then pay out to the face painters, so that's why you see that next agenda item on here. I think that was all I had. I mean, I've got a few changes that we'll do for next year. We learn each year, Zach and I try to talk to each of the vendors and talk to as many people leaving as we can and get their opinions. And we've got a few minor things, but I think overall everybody was very happy.
Yeah, you know, I was impressed that we got as many people on that lot as we did. Scott and his wife diligently stood out in that field all day, directing cars, and about 8:30 when we thought we were done, I went over to talk to the guy shooting off the fireworks and looked up and went, holy cow, this field is full, and I mean full, which is, you know, it's what we want. We want the results we had at exit. Everybody left without error. We had no issues with one person kind of get a little attitude with somebody, but no harm, no foul. Other than that, the vendors, yeah, they all were grateful. Said it was best night they'd had in a long time. The audience was approving. My communication with the public has been in abundance and all positive. So we know that people were at the churches and in the streets and in lots, and you know, we had a ton of tremendous volunteers. I think Fred, I think Rachel outworked all of us when it was time to go home. She was second wind, and we saw it, and we appreciate that. We appreciate all the help from the wives and from those that pitched in. It was truly a good example of community.
The high school students that helped, there were
Yes,
several of them out there
absolutely.
helping. And, you know, I had a friend that parked close to the entrance side of Freedom Fest there by the vendors, and said that they thought it was going to take them quite a while to get out. And they went out the south side. They did not go out the main gate. And she said it took them about 10 minutes was all it took to get out. So that was a big improvement over last year. So that was, the street department put a couple of additional exits for us out there, and they did it.
And Rotary, we want to thank Rotary.
And Rotary, they helped park. They were a great help.
It was easy to get in and out. And I just hope, I did my math, I hope 250 2026, and not 2025.
Well, that's what Dale Reagan was telling me the other day, and he doesn't, so if that's off, then
If I
we're
remember
off.
my history, I think it was 1776.
We'll fact check that, but is that not what Dale Reagan was saying
That's
all
what
day?
Bill said.
He kept saying next year, next year.
My history degree is
But Fred
something.
just
you know,
added
and
from
so-
250 to
But if
1776.
you celebrated when it was signed, this would be the 250th.
No. We'll talk about that later.
We'll verify that.
We'll verify, but that's the information we got.
There's two celebrations.
Terry, we don't ask you to leave things out, but you can leave that part out.
I agree.
There's too much other stuff. It's all those history books on the shelves at home are wrong.
Is there a way to measure the economic impact it had?
So there is a spreadsheet that we can put the economic impact in, and then we'll get those tax reports. But yeah, there's a spreadsheet that we can put that in. We'll get some data from, we went around and got some of the average cost from the vendors, and once we plug that in, it'll give the economic impact.
I have to say too, the fireworks display is really good. I think it's really good.
Well, I think maybe we should throw a kudos to Dale for what he did.
Oh, 100%.
Additionally, so for the majority of the public, kind of, we ran into a little bit of a hiccup right before with the what we call the launch pad, where we mowed it down, but it was still too long. And so we sent the street department over with their batwing to mow it down even more, and it was still too long. Concerns were with the dry, with as dry as it's been and everything, and so in a last minute scurry Friday afternoon, the street department went over and took a big chunk of that old pile of millings that we have over there, and we made a 2-inch pad, and just made a pad for it. And Dale Reagan said that he was so thrilled with that. His words for me were, "I'm going to pay for this." And I said, "Well, there's nothing to pay. Those are just millings." And he said, "No, I'm going to add $3,000 worth of show to your show." So everything that went off on that little hill, the ground stuff, that was all his gift to the city for giving him a pad to shoot off of rather than the grass. So definitely want to recognize that he even though he lives in Adair over by Dry Gulch, he claims to be a Pryor boy and was grateful to do his home show.
And it was about a 30-minute show,
Yeah.
a little over 30 minutes. Okay, next item is discussion and possible action on approving payment in the amount of $400 to Mystery Pixie Production for face painting and balloon art at Freedom Fest. A donation was made to the EDTA for this specific service and will be used to cover the expense. So, she came out there about 4 o'clock. Said, "Well, do you want to sit up over by the concession stand? You can be under cover." And she goes, "I've got my own awning, but put me somewhere where you don't mind there being lines and lines and lines of people up until the very last minute." And she was right. There were lines of children standing there waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And I think at about 9:30, she texted me and said, "Okay, the last kid just went through." But Mid-America Industrial Park paid for her. They contacted and said, "Hey, we'd like to help with the children's area. We have a lady that will do the face painting, but she would need to invoice you, and we'll send you a check for the 400." So,
I would so move. I'll second.
okay, thank you. Jay, if you do that.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Scardoll,
Yes.
Burger.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, guys. The next item is an update on the Bluegrass and Chili Festival. So I'll go through this pretty quick, but, so we do have a budget of $75,000. Zach and I in Houston met with Dale and got the written out budget from her that ties back to that. $75,000 includes everything except, of course, the beer purchases and the drink purchases, and that's kind of excluded because you don't want to put a cap on the beer sales if they can really blow it out of the park. She needs to be able to go buy what we need. But the entertainment contracts are under review now. They're with Chase. They add up to $44,500. The stages, lighting, and sound is another $22,500. We're working on some things, or she's working on some things to cut that down, but that's about $67,000 of the total expense. And the remainder is for additional porta-johns and just Committed sponsors at this point, 24,400. And then we've applied for 2 grants. We've applied for 1 grant. The second grant, we were waiting for some clarification from the city clerk on whether that needed to be the EDTA or the city. The city already had the necessary SAMS number for it, so we're doing that under the city. Got that confirmation this morning. But that will be another 10,000, so we're up to about 34,400 once those are awarded. Which, from talking to Dale, sponsorships usually pay for about half of the total budget. And then the rest of it come from sales on that day. She's still got several sponsorships out that will go up on the EDTA page in the next couple of days as well. So we think that she's well on her way. We have a meeting with her committee and then with a group from Pryor tomorrow at 1 o'clock at the chamber. We've been working with the Dam Jam coordinators to get them to bring their tent and event down for after Dam Jam that day, so all of that's downtown. But the things we're working on, ABLE Commission map, the chamber will be applying for the beer license for downtown. A duties list for the volunteers, that will be coordinated through the chamber, so that will be going out, and Main Street will be helping with that. Downtown, some of the questions we have is getting information to the downtown businesses about how they can set up in front of their stores during that day. What street closures there will be, stage placement, and then a letter going out to all the downtown businesses just so they're informed about what's happening that day. But that's everything I have on the bluegrass and chili. Do you have anything else, Zach?
No. No, we just want to make sure that everybody understands that we're doing everything we can to work with the Dam Jam coordination. We want to make sure that it's very loud and clear. We're not in any way, shape, or form going to set that on a back burner. That is just as important of an economic event for our community as anything else we do. It's a staple, and we want to make sure that they feel buoyed up in that effort. And so we're behind that too. We are looking at, how to make that accommodation for next year so things don't fall on all on the same day.
Yeah, that's an important part. The date was already set before we.
Yeah, and the contracts and things, and so that puts a little bit of a strain on our volunteer crowd, but I think we'll be able to pull it through. And just remember that the Dam Jam is just as important to us. We're excited about bringing this festival to town. We're going to do what we can to make it a success.
Okay. Our next item is discussion and possible action on a 60-day renewal of the MOU between Main Street and the EDTA. A new director has been named and started work. It's Bridget. This 60-day renewal will allow the new director to review the MOU, review actions taken under the MOU by Main Street over the prior year, and prepare the renewal presentation for the EDTA. Main Street does continue to perform under the MOU, but the new director needs time to prepare for the renewal. This will renew the MOU through August 31st, 2024. Payment under the MOU during the 6-day period will come from EDTA funds. If the MOU is renewed in September through June 30th of 25, it is anticipated that EDTA funds will be reimbursed through Fund 68. And just so you guys know, right now our bank account has $233,000 in it. That's as of 6/30. We have committed funds of $128,000 for softball, the fireworks show, aquatics, streetscape. So all of those checks have not cleared yet through that 233. Not committed right now is $104,000. So this would use $10,000 of that over the next 60 days for payment under the MOU. And when I talked with Bridget and a few of the board members at Main Street, we did not believe that it was fair to Bridget to have her start, go to the Main Street training, go around and meet everybody and introduce herself, and be ready to discuss everything that had been done under the previous administration group at Main Street for the MOU. Bridget, I don't know if you want to say anything or not.
Sure, I just want to say number one, hello, and introduce myself. And I'm very, very excited.
Oh, hey,
and happy
first
to
of all,
be
will you come up to the podium for me? Or we'll all be in trouble.
Sure. So, yes, I just want to say hello and introduce myself. I am Bridget, and I am very happy to be here, very happy to be back in Pryor and be able to give back to a community that really helped shape and form me as a professional and personally. And I'm excited to work with the EDTA. I've been looking at the MOU a bit. I see a lot of good things in there, and I think there's some things that, as far as Main Street goes, that we can go to enhance and improve our partnership and collaboration. So I'm excited for that. Any questions for me? Yet?
Okay.
Not yet?
Not
Nice
yet,
to meet
but
this
we'll
time.
go.
All right, next time then. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody have any questions on that or thoughts?
I would make the motion that we entertain the renewal of the MOU for the period of 60 days pursuant to the agenda item number 7.
Okay, well, thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. J, if you would do the,
Miller,
Yes.
Anderson,
yes.
Sorrell,
Yes.
Berger,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Number 8, discussion and possible action to approve payment of invoices up to a total of $40,000, all related to the streetscape. These invoice amounts are expected to be reimbursed as part of the TSET grant for the Pryor streetscape project. $140,000 from Fund 68 was previously transferred to the EDTA for use during the streetscape projects. Prior to this, an expenditure of $65,187 was approved by the EDTA from the $140,000 for the same purpose. Main Street is currently submitting the necessary information to TSET for the EDTA's reimbursement of that $65,187, and these invoices will follow the same procedure. So, happily, the streetscape is kicking off. We had some timelines, and we being the EDTA, Main Street, the city had some timelines to meet with TSET. When these grants were originally awarded with TSET, it was understood that they would run concurrent with the timeline for ODOT, and then ODOT took like 2 years longer. So that got them kind of off cycle. Main Street was able to get an extension from 23 to 24 for the grant. Everything was going great, and then ODOT took about 4 months to award to send the intent to proceed, which really put us behind. We talked to several other communities that said they're in the same boat. We talked to several at TSET that said they are in the same boat, that ODOT was just really going slow. ODOT told us that it was because it wasn't them internally. This grant is funded by a federal grant, so it was the federal grant that was slow to say you can go ahead and award this. So everything rolls downhill to us. At the very last minute, we asked TSET for another extension because they wanted, they were not going to allow everything to flow through ODOT like ODOT is going to allow for the rest of the grant. So these had to be spent by the EDTA. So at the last minute, they said, no, we're not going to invoice ODOT and then ODOT pay us. Through you guys, you're going to have to do this directly. So Bridget had to get quickly up to speed. We had to identify several different vendors that these components could be ordered through. And that added up to just under $40,000. But in order to meet that timeline and not lose the $30,000, we did have to place those orders on June 28th. Is that what date it was? Whatever the last Friday was.
Yeah, it was down to the wire.
And we did explain to ODOT or to TSET that it would require the EDTA to meet in July and do the approval, and that would be when the city would be able to cut the checks. So TSET agreed to all of that. This is just the formality of approving the invoices up to $40,000 to pay. And there were a lot of conversations in between there on with Bridget and TSET and ODOT and TSET's finance director.
And so Adam, who is the 40,000 being paid to?
It is being paid to several different vendors. Bridget, do you know who those vendors are? Do you remember?
Elliott Electrical, which is a local company, is one of them, so that's nice that it's able to stay within our community. Victor Stanley is another one, and the other one is an acronym, it's
Elliott Electrical, TLS, which is traffic lighting systems, who the city uses quite a bit. And who was the other one you said?
Victor Stanley.
And Victor Stanley. But this was as quickly as TSET was requiring us to do that, those vendors, by the time we had to publish the agenda, those vendors weren't locked in.
So have these services been performed already?
They have not.
They have not. I would make the motion that we approve payment of invoices up to $40,000 related to streetscape. Again, in accordance with the agenda item as stated in agenda item number 8.
I'll second that.
So, now, I want to make sure I answered that correctly. The order has been placed, because it had to be dated
Yeah.
that last day. We even told TSET, hey, if we need to have a special meeting, you've got to notify us in time to have 48-hour notification. TSET sent a response at 10 o'clock on Thursday, which was too late for a special meeting to go out and get us in time for
Notification.
Friday to do the proper notification. So I'm not blaming TSET, it was just a function of government, and I'm sure Zach can understand that. So, okay.
My question really related as to whether or not the work had been performed is that at this point in time, I don't see any physical evidence of any activity directly on site. I don't see any concrete being taken out or removed or.
Services have not been rendered.
Ma'am?
No services have been rendered, but to maybe answer your question, they have come out and done core samples.
Yeah, okay.
But all of that is under ODOT. So the ODOT grant will not really involve us, other than approving the plans through Main Street EDTA and city. That part won't involve us. ODOT will handle the bidding, ODOT will handle the payment. We won't even see any of that taking place except what's taking place physically down there. Kind of Bridget's, were you here yet, or was it just as you were starting when they went and did the core samples?
That was my first day.
So her first day, we did not know this. We had a conversation with Kinley Horn, who is the designer on the project. Said, hey, we're gonna send some people out to start doing surveys and get the general outlay of everything and start doing some line locates and stuff. You know, just in case you guys see anybody around, that's what we're gonna do. Well, Friday, I was at a golf tournament, came back through town, see this 1940s era drilling rig sitting on the sidewalk. Fred's calling me going, what the heck's going on downtown? Zach's getting a call from everybody and their uncle, and it's Bridget's first day. Why are the buildings shaking, and what is this piece of equipment rumbling around Adair Street? So we called Kinley Horn, and they're like, oh, that's geotech. We said, well, they're here, and they're like, oh. Yeah, we're sorry about that, and we won't let that happen again. So that part has started. So they cored, I don't know why they needed that big of a piece of equipment to go down,
12 inches.
12 inches, but it was huge, took up the whole sidewalk. So that part has started. And then, but they're still looking at the November timeframe
That's my understanding.
to do the actual groundbreaking. And in between there, they're supposed to have some public meetings that Bridget will coordinate with the building owners downtown and anybody in the community that wants to come to hear, here's the impact, here's the plan, here's all of that.
You answered one of my questions. I've been curious as to who actually would be directly tied or responsible for the advertising, the letting of the construction contracts. It sounds like that is ODOT, is that correct?
Yes.
And not the city.
And that's part of what caused the struggle with TSET, is everything else goes through ODOT. And the first invoice that was paid, that we approved a few months ago, it went to ODOT, and then that was all gonna be reimbursed through, and then TSET was like, nope, we're not sending any checks to ODOT. So, is there anything else you wanna add, Bridget? I know you're still getting up to speed on some of that, but.
There was so much back and forth, and every time we figured out a plan, it was just a series of events. But no, I think everything that you're saying is pretty much up par now. Kimley Horn has come out with some stuff as far as public relations for what's going on downtown. They've sent us some marketing materials and a timeline graphic, if you will. I think that needs to be looked at. I'm not completely happy with it personally. I think it talks more about Kimley Horn and less about Pryor itself. So I'd like to see that graphic be a little more Pryor focused, but that should be coming out soon once we approve it. And then there's also the naming of the district that has to be done by the end of July.
So, Main Street does have a website, a page that's dedicated to just the streetscape, so that's where all the traffic will be pushed. And we've asked Kimley Horn to come in, I think it's every other month at the beginning, and then as the project picks up every month. So we don't hold me to that timeline, it might have been a little different. To have on-site public awareness meetings. You know, we talked about holding them maybe at the library or something, somewhere where people can come and talk with them and voice any concerns or ask questions.
Do it
But-
at Hall, especially when we unveil the naming of the district.
So, and you wanna tell them how you're gonna do the naming? There's gonna be a vote, correct? Is that?
Yeah, my idea is to have a task force of stakeholders, so like the mayor's office, EDTA, the library, different entities that would be interested in helping come up with a few names, and then either putting it in the paper. In our meeting this morning, we even talked about doing a vote on the auction cards at Dancing with the Stars to try to get some more generated ideas for names for the district. But all that has to be done before the end of July, because Kimley Horn, that's the deadline, which Kimley Horn is for the name.
And that was for some of the components that they would have to order in order to work it in. But yeah, Larry, all of that's one of the benefits that we saw of having this ODOT grant, is it all goes through ODOT, and we don't have to worry about it. That was the other thing that came up with TSET, was all of a sudden they said, well, how are you gonna bid this? So that caused us a little bit of a delay. The other thing, like you just saw with Bridget, she's not always happy with some of the previous plans. So she's willing to take the bull by the horns and say, you know, hey, let's step back and take another look at this. I think that's what you found too, Zach, or Mayor, that she will go back and look at those previous plans and say, hey, let's have an open conversation about whether we ought to change this or ought to go forward with it.
Yeah, we've had some discussion on that, and it's nice to have that, whatever you wanna call it.
Okay, so we'll move on to the,
I think we have a motion.
oh, got a motion second, you wanna do a vote?
Yeah,
Please.
sure.
I learned that trick from Zach, by the way, and just,
Just try to move on without voting, right?
yes.
Sorrell,
Yes.
Berger,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Okay, next item. See if I can keep the job.
I move that Adam Anderson remain as the chairperson of the EDTA and serve on the term.
I would second that.
Okay, Jay, I didn't get a chance to talk, you can take the vote.
Sorrell,
Yes.
Berger,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Anderson.
Abstain. Can I abstain? Is there enough of us?
Vote on yourself.
Then yes, I can vote on myself, yes.
Adam's the only no up here.
Yeah.
No?
No.
I'm not voting no.
Okay, discussion and possible action on the EDTA vice
I
chair.
move that we got Miller remain as vice chairperson of
We
the
didn't want to take a chance
EDTA
on volunteering him.
and serve another term.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Jay, you'll do the vote?
Berger,
Yes. Yes.
Such a busy man.
I wanna see how she walked that
I
down.
don't know whether to do abstain or.
We need to teach confidence here. Yes.
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Sordoff.
Yes.
If it helps, I think in the last council meeting, we actually had a grunt.
A grunt.
One on the other.
Okay, then item 11, discussion and possible action on the EDTA secretary.
Move that we keep the current secretary, say standing water, and so another term.
I'll say that.
You good with that, Jake?
Yeah, I'll go.
Right.
You ready?
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Sordoff,
Yes.
Berger.
Yes.
And then unforeseeable business,